Hello there. In this video we're going to introduce you on how to make your own personalised bracelet, and we're going to use the most simple bracelet that's available in Fluid Designer. It's a default object that's available for you to just drag and drop onto the workspace. But you can do quite a lot of things with this simple bracelet, which is what we're going to show you in the video. So if you start off Fluid Designer, there's your basic opening screen, or more or less like that. What we need to do is to go to the bracelets folder. So if we click on bracelets here, and you can see there's a lot of objects already built for you in Fluid Designer. What we want is the most basic object of all, which is this all UK sizes 25 to 95mm bracelet. So if we just drag and drop that object onto the workspace, and I'm just going to click this button here to start screencast keys. So when I press any keys on the keyboard, so if I press letter A, you can see it appears in the screen down here. Okay, so that just shows you any key presses I make. We've got this object here, and if I hold down the center mouse button and just rock the mouse slightly, and here I'm just scrolling the center mouse button towards me and here away from me, I can view the object from a slightly different angle. So I'm just holding the center mouse button and just gently rocking the mouse. So what have we got here? Well, we've got essentially a bracelet. The default size of it is 65mm inner diameter, and I can see that size if I click over here. This is called the properties panel. If I click on I, you'll see X and Y are 66, or just over 66mm. Well, the red arrow is the X direction, so when it says X66, it means from the outside on here to the outside on the other side. The Y says 66, well, the green arrow is the Y, so from the outside of the object over here to the outside of the object on this side is about 66mm. And in the Z, the blue is the Z, we've got 10mm, so this depth here is 10mm. If I go back to this icon here, this is a curve, and that's what this object is. And at the moment, the shape of our object is 1mm thick, so this thickness at the top here is 1mm, and it's 10mm deep, which is what we could see here as the Z value. So how could I change this to a different size? Well, if I actually just click on here, I can change it, and you'll see that that's now 15mm deep, and we can see that here. Z is now 15mm. So just by clicking in here, I can resize my bracelet very, very quickly and very easily. So the initial size I'll set it back to was 1:10. Okay. So that's our default bracelet of 65mm. Well, what if we wanted a different size bracelet? Well, the way to get a different size bracelet is, first of all, you must delete this object here and return it to this yellow circle. Well, what's the yellow circle? Well, as I've already indicated, the icon up here is a curve, and also over here where it says default inner diameter, this is also a curve. This object is actually something called a NURBS circle, and it's created by going to add curve and NURBS circle. And if I press the tab key, notice down here the tab appears, we can go into edit mode and we can see what this looks like in edit mode, and you can see it's got some points around the outside. These are called control points, and our circle has got 1, 2, 3, 4 control points just touching the edge of the circle, and 4 control points out at the side. And this is a special mathematical function called, as I already said, called a NURBS circle, and this is what creates our bracelet. Now if I press the tab, sorry, no, I'm going to click on this side here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to view it from here. So I think it's view front. Yeah, view front. So there's my basic circle. So if I pull this Z direction up here, and then if I hold down the center mouse button and rock it, you can see what I've done is I've pulled the center of that circle upwards 1 unit. If I click over here on the other side and select the control point exactly opposite this, and if I go to view and front again, so I pulled this one up 1 unit. If I just pull this one down 1 unit, so I'm just making this symmetrical essentially, you'll see that my circle now is a bit more of a curve. It's actually got this kind of wave format to it. Now if I press the tab key on the keyboard and come out of edit mode, there's my circle now, which is bent a little bit. It's got this wave format to it. If I go back now and apply the cross section to it, you can see that I've now got a different type of bracelet. It's got this wavy twist to it. So that's one of the things that you can do with the basic bracelet object. You can adjust it in this way to get a more wavy curve format. Now if I view from the top, you can see that there is a bit of a downside to what I've just done there, because if we just zoom in here, you see that this is not actually at 90 degrees anymore. The bottom part of this has been pulled out, certainly if you compare it with up here. So as we've introduced that wave format, we've actually twisted our object as well. So we could perhaps go back and see if we can repair that. Well, if I press the tab key again to go into edit mode, now this side is the most distorted. So how can I restore that? How can I make this at right angles again as it was originally? Well, I can use this thing called tilt. And if I hold down the left mouse button and just drag the mouse to the right, you can see I'm making the tilt worse. I'm tilting it all the way around and twisting it all the way around. What I want to do is to restore it to 90 degrees approximately. So yeah, so minus 24 has restored that tilt now. And if I go across to the other side, and let's see, I hold down the left mouse button and drag it, you can see I can change the tilt on that side as well. Now, I've only adjusted it by 12 degrees on that side. But if I press the tab key to come out of edit mode now, you can see that I've squared off my bracelet now. So that's how you can restore the twist in the bracelet, or if you wanted to, you could introduce the twist. What else can we do here when we go into edit mode? Well, if I press the tab key again to return to edit mode, if I select that control point over there, we've just adjusted the tilt. Well, above tilt it says radius. Well, again, if I click on the left mouse button and drag the mouse to the right, I'm increasing the radius size. Now if I increase it to 2, and I can click on the end here to change the value, or I could just type in, what effect has that had? Well, look, you can see here what we've done is we've made this deeper here, but we've also thickened it up. This started off, if we measure it, it should have started off at about 1 millimeter. Sorry, 1.6 millimeters there, sorry. Here, we're 2.3 millimeters. It's thicker. So let me just increase the radius even more and you can see the effect. So it's thickening it up, but it's also making it wide. So I end up with this kind of ring shape at the end here. So the bigger I make this, the more of a kind of ring shape effect I get. So I'm going to leave it as the value 2. So tilt will rotate it around. I want to tilt back as 0 there because I want my object to be squarish. radius will thicken it up there, but it will also thicken it up in this direction. So if you want to maintain 65 millimeters as the internal diameter, if you thicken it up at the top, you may wish to move it out. I've probably moved it a bit too far there to maintain it as 65 millimeters. I probably only just need to move it up a small increment there. That's actually back horizontal again. I just move it up one, so it's slightly brought up there to maintain my 65 millimeter internal diameter. Okay, so those are some changes that I can make to distort my object to give it a different appearance while in edit mode. Now, one other thing that we could do is, as we've noticed already, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 control points just touching the bracelet, and then 4 additional control points on the outside. If I actually highlight those 3 control points, and I did that by holding down the Shift key and clicking on them, if I now click the right mouse button and do Subdivide, now what Subdivide will do is it will take these 2 control points and it will subdivide them and put another control point in the middle. And it will take these 2 control points and put another control point in the middle. So if I do that, you see the control points appear there and there. What I get is a more square format in the corner here. So instead of being round, when you've just got 1 control point here, you get a round object. Bracelet, a round bracelet I should say. If we actually introduce control points here, we can create a more square bracelet. And again, if I hold down the Shift key and select those 3 control points and click the right mouse button and Subdivide, I can introduce again more control points. And so again I get a squarer type of bracelet here. Okay, so those are some of the things that you can actually do in edit mode. You can introduce more control points, you can tilt, which will rotate and twist the object, or you can increase the radius. Now if you actually want a completely different size bracelet instead of 65 millimeters, then what you need to do is remove the bevel object from this curve, the default one. Click over here and remove the viewport selection. This icon here means you can select it. If it's not highlighted, this icon, you can't select it, only when it's highlighted. If you click on the little eye here, the object itself will disappear from view. Now there are lots of objects actually on the screen here, but they're not in view. So if I want a 50 millimeter diameter internal diameter bracelet, first of all I need to be able to view it, but I also need to be able to select it, and that's what the arrow allows you to do. So there's a bracelet with an inner diameter approximately, well, of 50 millimeters. Yeah. Now what I need to do is to give it some thickness, and we do that by selecting a cross section over here. So I'm going to do 1 by 10 again. So we apply a cross section to the curve. And again, if we look at the main information icon, you can see that the X, red is the X-axis, so the size of this is just over 50 millimeters, that's including the thickness. The Y is the green direction, again that's 50 millimeters, so in other words the internal diameter of this is approximately 50 millimeters. There's just a minor difference because of the thickness of the object. And the Z at the moment, well, the Z is the blue one, so this depth is 10 millimeters. Now if you want to modify this one, you could press the tab key to go into edit mode, and you can adjust it. You can change the tilt, you can change the radius to get a different appearance for your bracelet. Okay. So tab key to come out of edit mode. Now if I want to undo something that I've just done, I can always do Control Z on the keyboard, or I can go to edit and undo. Sometimes you have to do it twice to undo. Okay, so once you're actually happy with the bracelet that you've got, and really in this instance all I've done is change it to a 50mm bracelet. Once you're actually happy with it, what we don't do in Fluid Designer is go to File and Save, because we can't print Fluid Designer Blender files. What we need to do is to go to File and Export. And I like to save objects as the wavefront OBJ file format. That's a printable file format. So if I go to Export Wavefront, and if I go to Desktop, I want I've created not a 65mm bracelet, but a 50mm bracelet. So I just change that name to 50mm bracelet.obj and export the OBJ file to the desktop. Now we do then need to run that through something called NetFab Basic to just check that the object's okay for 3D printing, but essentially that is your 3D printable object file. Okay, so that's the end of this video. It's just an introduction to using this simple bracelet object which is available in Fluid Design. Thank you.